On today's episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, we give out high grades and high praise for Washington Commanders' third overall pick from the 2024 NFL Draft Class, quarterback Jayden Daniels, for his performance versus the New York Jets. We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You know, I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man, and the other side to this dynamic duel that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. If you can hear my voice, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe at the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft DP. We're still handing out grades, baby. We the teachers. The rookies, they came in their first week, their first preseason action. We're handing out grades over here, man. We have up to date. We have Jayden Daniels, yes, the Washington Commanders rookie quarterback. Then we have Bo Nix, Mr. Denver Broncos himself. Sean Payton, are you happy with Bo Nix? We know you slid Russell Wilson out the door. And then we're going to wrap this thing up, show the defense some love, right? And we're going to go to the edge rusher from the Indianapolis Colts, Mr. Laiatu Latu. But DP, it's going to be a really good show, man. Before we get started, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports aren't sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Jayden Daniels, Keith, I gave him for a grade, a guy that, played the first series and, Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn said, that's all we need to see. Gave him an A, Keith. And numbers wise, for those who didn't see the game, he had 3 dropbacks. He was 2 for 3, 45 yards, average 15 yards per attempt. He also had the rushing touchdown, the one rushing attempt off the QB zone read in the red zone. This is a quarterback that phrase, that old adage, make you play 11 on 11. Yeah, Jayden Daniels is that type of quarterback with his athleticism, as we all saw at LSU. Because I go to the play, the money-making play, right? The deep ball, the one of the plays that he excels at. He was one of the best deep balls, not the best deep ball thrower and go ball thrower, whether it was a slot fade or just a go ball coming into the 2024 NFL draft class. And the report was that he wasn't actually cleared to make the check that he made. They didn't want him to handle that stuff right out the gate in the first preseason game. But he said to him and Austin Eckler in the backfield, they looked at the defense pre-snap, saw what they needed to see, made a quick check and call, had the go route, I think it was to De'Ami Brown down the right sideline. But what I love from him, Keith, is that the fact of just the nuanced quarterback play. You're in the pocket, use your eyes to hold and move defenders. He kept that free safety, that single high safety, in the middle of the field between the hashes, creating that window down the sideline. This is a first big throw in the preseason game. He's sitting back there, eyeballing that safety, holding them still, kind of moving them to the left just a little bit, then flip back to his right and just uncork that rainbow that he threw with accuracy and ball placement, something that we know that he can do. So for me, I give him an A. No, we didn't see. I wanted to see more, but when you go out there and score in your first drive, typically coaches are like, all right, that's enough. That's enough.
I agree, DP, but I'm gonna have to do this. I have to be consistent, right? I have to be consistent.
You did this to Caleb yesterday. I know. This is Caleb too.
Yeah, I have to be consistent, DP. I gave Caleb Williams, I think, a B+ yesterday, just because I said sample size, right? And I just, like I said, blame the coaching staff, right? Want to see more, see a couple things, right? You said a total of 3 dropbacks, I believe. He went 2 for 3. I think you've seen what that potentially, and this is why, and we just started the show, but we just had this conversation off air real quick, right? That every prospect is allowed to get better year over year. And Jayden Daniels had that jump right from one year to another year. And then now we're looking at him from college to the NFL and what he did in college, wondering his A traits, right? As far as deep ball accuracy plus his running ability, can it work in the NFL? And that was the biggest question with Jayden Daniels. And I think you're seeing now that his deep ball accuracy as far as vertical routes um translates, but then his running ability helps balance that out because there's still Jaden's ability to consistently kind of work the middle of the field and keep defenses off balance as far as just not before and not giving up the deep ball, right? And making you work short to intermediate. Well, his short to intermediate balance, right, could not come via him throwing the football, but he switches the numbers, right? Changes the numbers just with his legs. And so I thought that's why that drive was so important because you seen Jayden Daniels, the deep ball, hey, to back y'all up, right? And then I'm gonna balance it out. Once we get in the red zone, I can use my legs also. So you've seen his two most important components at play during that drive, and I think that's why it was important.
No, 100%. And I think that's probably going to be the next step when we see him probably play more snaps in week 2 of the preseason, his second game. We might see a full quarter from Jayden Daniels right now. Granted, you go out there back-to-back drives and the team scores touchdowns, they're probably going to pull you out again early. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we're seeing enough. Like, we're good. But I hope to see at least a quarter from him so we can start seeing, like, and I want to see him on the field with Ben Sinnott. Ben Sinnott had a big play in that game, I think 30, 40-yard reception. And I think he got like 20 yards after the catch where you saw that physicality, the athleticism, you know, be able to make catches in tight spaces, but then just bowl through guys, right? And be a physical, big body tight end. And that's a position that they've struggled with for years. You know what I mean? Outside of Logan Thomas, who was a converted quarterback to tight end. So I want to see him with Benson, not on the field, also with Terry and Jahan and Diami, because if you can then start mixing in the middle of the field throws and get him, you know, keep like just like with anything, like the reps and the repetition creates a level of comfort. So if you feel like he's not the most comfortable quarterback targeting the middle of the field, let's go ahead and get those targets in the preseason. Let's call those in breakers, those digs, those crossers, the deep overs, stuff like that. Those like kind of middle of the field, those long sit routes in the middle of the field, like throw that route to where you get comfortable with the timing, reading the linebackers drops to where you can then get to the regular season. And it's not something where you got Micah Parsons dropping off in the coverage and you're gunshot to test that window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that just has to be the approach, right? And that has to be the balance. And I'm excited to see what he can do, you know, like just we're talking about as far as with Jayden Daniels and everything and how he employs these weapons. I think it was important to see the deep ball once again, DP, because you have two guys that can vertically stretch the field and scary Terry McLaurin, right? And then we're hoping for the resurgence of Jahan Dotson. So I think that's another reason why that deep ball component is so important, because that's probably what the Commanders probably lend themselves to. There is going to be deep shots, right? And run the rock. And then I also like the implementation of Austin Eckler, because even on that play to the deep shot, I think there's an opportunity to hit Austin Eckler kind of like on that seam route, right? Like where he was running vertical up the field, playing in a slot. So it'll be interesting to just see how this thing continues to fold. I'm with you. I'm ready and excited to see week 2, right? To see more of Jayden Daniels and see what he can do. But DP, let's keep this thing going, man. We're on to that's the West Coast, right? And Mountain West time. I think that's the time zone out there. And we're going to Denver, right? We're going to the Denver Broncos, and we're going to break down rookie quarterback Bo Nix, have the discussion about what grade did we give him, right? Like, there's some highs, there were some lows, but ultimately, what grade did he land on? We're going to talk about Bo Nix coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. And you can go ahead to FanDuel.com right now and get in on all of the action, the preseason betting odds and action for college football and the NFL. MVP, Heisman, college football playoff odds, you name it, they have it. Go try it. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer, because FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Denver Broncos rookie quarterback Bo Nix, Keith. I walked away. I gave him a C. I gave him an average grade. I thought he was solid in his first preseason action. He didn't wow me. I wasn't like overly impressed by what he did, but I felt like he operated the offense for the most part fairly well. Right, the quick game, and I think I put this in my report. From him in that Oregon offense. If the first read is there, right, that multiple choice answer. If the question is 2 + 2, and the first answer is 4, he's going to get that on time, right? It's when you start forcing him off that first read. And the thing that bothered me a little, like the quick game, he was fine with. The thing that still bothered me, though, is that for a guy that's played 5 straight years as a starter in college football, the footwork is still erratic. His drop back has 0 cadence. There's just a level of timing and rhythm to it that's missing. Like there was a throw, he had a couple throws behind receivers in the middle of the field.
Yep.
And what I loved was we talked about it yesterday, right? With JJ McCarthy, that edge pressure gets beside you, step up in the pocket if you got an interior O-line that's protecting you. And he did that. But instead of setting his feet, he's like off platform, feet off the ground, and just rips it. And the ball's behind his receiver. I think 2 of his passes, I know for a fact, one of them, I think he threw it to Greg Dulcich on the right hash, should have been intercepted. You know what I mean? Like him coming off of the first read, going to the next read, being late, like footwork his body not being married together, being ready to throw. Like it was just kind of like his footwork was loud, like a boombox in the pocket. Like it just seemed like I felt like he was sped up, and I didn't expect to see that from a guy who's played so much football. So for me, it's like I saw, like I think he had he had a couple of really good throws though. Like the one, I think, move it to his right. To Cortland Sutton on the sideline. No, move it to his left, I'm sorry, where he got his shoulder square, just ripped it. And I was like, you thought the natural arm talent is there. The mobility is there. But I do, and I think the job is his. I think Jarrett Stidham threw an interception that eventually that's what brought Bo Nix onto the field the very next drive, if I remember correctly. But I do feel like there could be some growing pains in this offense for the Denver Broncos. He did some solid things, didn't play bad, but there's some stuff he's got to fix. Because looking at my report from him this past draft cycle and then watching that game and watching the film, and I'm just like, these are some of the same things he did at Oregon that I didn't really like, because I'm like, this is going to get you in trouble in the NFL.
Right. So I'm going to say this. I agree with you. I gave him a little bit higher, a little bit higher grade. I gave him a C+. Just because I thought he had, I think he went 10 for 16, 11 for 16, something like that. He had a good
15 for 21.
15 of 21. I know he had a good sample size of playing. And there were some good things out there, right? Like you're talking about, like quickly getting to his read and then letting the football go, right? Like he made some completions. He also made some fairly I don't want to say difficult situations, right? But like situations that were not ideal. Like they were somewhat complex, right? And he was able to find the solution.
Improvise as well, though. He improvises fairly well.
Yeah, and it was better than the Auburn improvisation. I think that's the best word, right? Because Oregon, I don't feel like he had to do it much, right? Because it was boom, boom, boom. Auburn, he had to do it all the time, right? But Auburn wasn't good. Oregon wasn't at all. I feel like Denver was a nice blend of you have to do it and you're executing it. And so I give him a C+, and I probably, the high plays you talked about, right, and you discussed, and I agree with all of those in that facet. The question marks and the concerns, I also agree with from that perspective of I was watching them and I'm sitting there and I'm like, is he moving faster than everybody else? Right. It looked like that, right? And they always talked about like syncing your drop back, right, with the timing of the routes. And he just looked so jittery and antsy, right? And it could be a tribute to his first NFL action, but you almost just felt like when people, it's almost like we're talking, right? And like you're standing in front of the class and you have to give a presentation, right? And the people that are least comfortable are usually what? The people that talk really fast, right? They speed up through their cadence and they're going really fast. And what people tell you, slow down, relax. That's what I wanted to tell them, like, whoa, big fella, relax. Like we play football. You've been doing this for a very long time. And the problem that I think is going to happen is that if Sean Payton plans on being kind of like a timing and rhythm player, a timing and rhythm coach, right? And that's going to be part of their scheme. The issue is going to be that Bo Nix is not going to be in sync, the drop back, along with him being able to get rid of the football, right? And that can lead to some, like, I just hope that it doesn't become sporadic decisions, right? Like, it's like, oh, hurry up, get back, first read not there, oh, shoot, second, third, get rid of the ball, right? And you don't want that to be the process. I want him to be a lot more calmer, because even if it is play action type stuff, he has time to get in his drop. He has good offensive line protection. Get there, get through your reads, and make the right throw, and throw with some timing and anticipation. So I gave him a C+ because I thought there were some good things. I would say this, that it wasn't even as I didn't know how that was going to go. It was better than what I thought potentially it could have went, just because of not just Bo Nix, but we talked about the Denver Broncos being one of the worst situations, right? We talked about the Broncos and the New England Patriots being the two spots where you would really have concerns if you was a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's, and some people are going to stick with the status quo from college. Oh, he's a check down Charlie because he averaged only 6 yards per attempt. He only had one pass completed, I believe, down 20 yards down the field. He was like 1 for 3 on passes down the field and outside the numbers. And so, like, that, what does that do essentially? And that was something he struggled with, right? We watched that at the Senior Bowl, where it's like one-on-ones and you got guys winning, you got receivers winning vertically, and you're overthrowing or underthrowing the deep ball, where I never felt like his deep ball accuracy was great, unless a guy was like, you see Troy Franklin in Oregon, switch release, and he's wide open, and it's like, oh yeah, that's an easy throw for you because it's just pitch and catch. But it's like you got a guy, you're trying to also time the separation at the top of the route vertically as he's running with a defender. I think he's got to clean that up and start hitting the deep ball more consistently, Keith, because that's going to box this offense in. And not only, but to that point, Antonio Pierce is the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, is a former linebacker, Super Bowl winning linebacker. Mm-hmm. If you don't think, especially when you got a guy with hands like a receiver, like Jack Jones in your secondary, if you don't think they're going to bait you into some of them quick throws and jump everything, like, yes, they're going to start jumping those routes. Spags, instead of playing press man or consistent man-to-man coverage, they're going to show you man and drop off in the cover 2, hard cover 2 flats, and they're going to take away those quick routes, that flat route, that out route. You got to start hitting these deep throws accurately to back these defenses off and make them play you honest. So that's what I'm kind of going to be looking forward to in the Broncos' second preseason game, is how many deep shots can we get, especially if you can get the run game going, get the play action going, because he's got the arm talent to push the ball. He's got a legit arm. Like, that was never a question. It was always the process that got you the result. And the result was never the best with his deep ball. So I think he's got to improve on that. But like I said, solid day. He wasn't bad. I gave him a C. You gave him a C+. Just want to see him fix some things, man. Like the footwork in the pocket, that concerns me, because that's the problem he's had his entire career in college. And it's like, if you don't fix that now, that could be a real problem for you in the NFL when you're not accurate because your feet aren't settled and you're just patting around your. And see, like you said, it could be also first preseason action. He's amped up, he's hyped, stuff like that. And he's got also, he probably heard the chatter. They picked who at 12? Bo Nix, top 15. Yeah, he probably heard that and wanted to come out and show why this was the best investment for him. But you got to settle down. I want to see him be a little bit more under control in week 2 of the preseason.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. Let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. We've been on the East Coast. We've been on the West Coast. Now it's time to take care of the Midwest, man. We're headed to Indianapolis, and we're switching sides of the football. You know, we got to show our defenders some love, man. We're going to talk about rookie Laiatu Latu for the Indianapolis Colts and his first performance as a rookie in the NFL preseason. We'll talk about that and more coming up next.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Guys, some of my self-care non-negotiables, what I did this morning, my monthly appointment with my therapist. I had to go sit down, talk with her, get things off my chest, clear my mind, my body, my soul, my spirit, all of it, right? By sitting down with someone that I trust, who's unbiased and objective on my life. What's some of the things that you view as non-negotiable for your self-care? Because understand, when your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and so much more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. So it's hard to be the best version of yourself when you're not actually, I don't know, prioritizing yourself. Guys, I'm telling you now, if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/locked-on today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked-on. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Laiatu Latu 6'5", 265, first round pick 15 for those Indianapolis Colts, and the guy that is probably going to be starting the season for them. There's a strong chance of that with them losing one of their top edge rushers, I think to a torn Achilles or torn ACL in camp. And Latu played 8 snaps total, Keith, but watching him, I could tell you right now, he was given the starting left tackle for the Broncos. Yeah, he was giving him some problems. Garrett Bowles was having some trouble with Latu on those pass rush snaps. I give him a B+. Like in this situation, I would absolutely say, like, I wanted to see, need to see a bigger sample size, especially with the question that we had about him with the run game, stuff like that. Like, how are you going to handle a bigger workload in a team that's going to run the ball heavy? Because Jacksonville's probably going to run the ball. Tennessee's going to try to figure out and get the run game going as well. Houston is going to run the ball in that kind of Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, West Coast zone scheme. So you're going to face some running game. But, I mean, his pass rush reps, he looked as good as advertised. He looked like the guy we saw at UCLA. The multiple moves, the dip, bend, and rip around the end. He actually pressured Bo Nix on one of his incompletions on probably a couple. And he worked the inside track and the outside track against Garrett Bowles. This is a guy who's been in the league like almost 10 years in terms of Garrett Bowles. So, like, this is a guy who got paid. He's been a long-term starter for them. And your first NFL action, you're taking him to task, man. I think Latu looked good, and I just want to see more. I want to see a couple more series so we can kind of start seeing that picture, kind of be fleshed out. You know what I mean? Right now, we had a little bit, but it's like, okay, what should we expect for you on this defensive line if you are the full-time starter in 2024?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm interested to see DP, like you said, just a bigger sample size, because he was one of those guys where we talked about, right? Like that they did one, I don't see one elite thing, but he had one trait that was better than everybody else's, right? By far. And that was the hand usage and his ability to rush the passer. And I'm just excited from a talent evaluating perspective to see if that translates fully, right? Like, because if this guy can win with his hands and hand usage and things like that, right, alone, and maybe the speed to power conversions aren't there as much, but he still can win with his hands, then now we like, hey, this guy, he's going to be one of the best edge rushers in the entire NFL, right? So I think bigger sample size. I don't know who the Colts are playing this upcoming week, but I think the first week, right, getting a veteran offensive tackle like Garrett Bowles, somebody who's in there relaxed, right? He's not amped up. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for a very long time, right? And played over 100, probably 150 career football games. And so for him to go against a guy like that, I thought was well, because in practice, you're kind of going against yourself, right? So you're going against your teammates, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Indianapolis Colts have fairly young offensive tackles. I think one side is
the
it
left
Burnett?
side.
Bernard Raymond. Raymond, right? And he's a fairly young guy. So this was probably the best competition he's seen at the tackle position. He was able to handle it well.
Yeah, they have Arizona coming to town this Saturday. And so he'll probably see, depending on which side he's lined up on, depending on how much the starters play for Arizona, he's probably going to see Paris Johnson at left tackle if he lines up on the left tackle. And then the right tackle is the veteran Jonah Williams out of Alabama, who was with the Cincinnati Bengals. So he'll get you probably get a good look of youth and athleticism and traits, and then savvy veteran play, right? And it's like, now how do you, and that'll be a good test for him, right? Because you'll figure out, okay, how do I beat the guy who's still figuring it out like I am, and then the guy who's been in the league for 5-6 years, who knows how to get to his set point, who knows how to kind of take the wind out of the pass rush and, kind of like cut off access to the backfield. And he's probably watched my snaps and know where I thrive at. How do I then, throughout my reps, figure out how to defeat him? How do I set him up with what I do well and my first go-to move to then counter and get back cross-face, whether it is the speed rush outside, the dip and bend outside, and, Euro step back inside. Now I'm in the face of the quarterback. It won't be Kyler Murray. He's not playing at all this preseason. It'll probably be Clayton Tune or one of the other back, I think Desmond Ridder and stuff like that. So he'll have if he gets a chance to see either of those tackle or hopefully both, he'll have a nice test with the Arizona Cardinals. But yeah, I think B+ is a good grade for him for the limited amount of snaps he played, but the impact he had, because he was able to get back there in the backfield, make his presence known, and at the end of the day, you're not gonna make every quarterback's not gonna see ghosts like Sam Darnold did, but you can at least make them hear footsteps. And if you can make them hear footsteps consistently, now their rhythm is thrown off, their timing is thrown off, the internal clock is a lot faster while they're in the pocket after they felt and heard you getting into the backfield multiple times throughout the early portions of a game. So looking forward to that, because, man, when the regular season comes and he's on the field, those CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Will Levis, hate to be 3rd and 10, and you got DeForest Buckner, and then you got Laiatu Latu, Laiatu Latu flanking him right on the edge. So it's like, okay, who do I double? Well, I'm gonna try and double DeForest because that's the more proven guy. Yep. Now you leaving. Well, granted, if you're the Texans, you got you got one of the best tackles in the game, Laramie Tunsil, so you might feel all right. You know what I mean? But if you're the Tennessee Titans, you go, oh, J.C. Latham, this is your chance, right? You got to deal with that. And you got Cam Robinson over there with the Jags, so he's going to have some nice tests in that AFC South.
I agree 100%. He's definitely a name to look out for, because I think you talk about this AFC South being kind of reinvigorated, right, with young talent. I think we don't talk about Laiatu Latu as far as potentially being an impact guy, because a lot of those teams have young quarterbacks now, right? And how do you beat a young quarterback? You got to hit him. You got to hit him early and often. He's one of those guys that the Indianapolis Colts drafted to get the job done. So definitely interested to see that. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. And you can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You want to talk about some more, finishing up some grades from the week 1 of the preseason. Olu Fashanu, Joe Alt, and also Nate Wiggins. How did these young players show up for their teams? Come and join the conversation again tomorrow. The Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.